That man has no shortage of fans and how passionate they are. Jumping into this series, though, was a 3-0 for SKT, so they're keeping their undefeated run here at Worlds alive. I want to start with the picks and bans here, though, because Faker comes out with that Kassadin into the Fizz.
Yeah, we were talking about how much we were liking SKT drafts. This was the one that I walked away from going, I don't know where the wave clear really is here. So it's going to be a stalled out game that requires a lot of skirmishing, which they, SKT has shown a lot of prowess for, but so has AHQ. So this was going to be a bloody game that I thought, going back and forth. And the Kassadin against the Fizz was not working out for him at all. He got solo killed twice, and then there was one kill that was, for an all intents and purposes, it was a solo kill, but the junglers kind of had a little bit of a hand in it.
It was a cheeky draft, but I do think that his laning disadvantage came from that early teleport. When you TP in the early game, like before level 6, to get one kill that you don't even get, you get an assist, and then you got a base, walk back to the lane. That gives a huge level advantage to the Fizz, and that's really where the snowball began.
Yeah, but then when he got killed the first time, they were both level 5, and then Fizz got 6 off of the kill, and I think it was the Ignite, the kill pressure of the Ignite. Because we've been back and forth about TP versus Ignite in the mid lane. This was a great display of the type of advantage you can get when you run the Ignite and the type of pressure that Yamato's been talking about that you take to a TP mid laner.
Also a great display of what happens when you predict the flash and actually flash before the Kassadin does to where
Also,
the Kassadin
what happens
will
when you
flash.
drop the fish? Come on, guys. No.
What was that? What was that? There was no fish involved in that kill.
That one wasn't the fish. One thing I
He
do...
got it the next kill, though. He used the fish the next kill.
All right.
One thing I do want to point out is that the Fizz matchup against Kassadin is actually really, really easy for Kassadin to set up ganks. And I want to give credit to Westor here and how well he played this, because generally when you're Kassadin and you trade with your Q, the reaction from Fizz is that he wants to jump in and trade back with his E, and what that does is it sets up these weird slow pushes and Kassadin freezes in front of his turret, and it's actually super frustrating as a Fizz player to play against something like that. But what Westor was doing was refusing to trade in the first 3 levels, and he would jump out of it, and then he actually got the freeze in front of the turret after the teleport came in, and even though he didn't have level 6, he would have hit it eventually first anyway, just because of how well he manipulated that wave. And that's just something that really good Fizz players will do, be able to trade outside of the wave and get in a small advantage like that. So credit to Westor. He didn't have the best first couple of games, but that game 3, he certainly did do a pretty good job at the start of the game of being able to dictate the pace as a Fizz player like you should be able to do.
Also, happy birthday to Westor. It is his birthday today, and what present would you want more than solo killing Faker
Multiple
twice?
times.
Multiple times on your own accolades. So once again, happy birthday, Westor. The game result wasn't the best for you, but your performance was still very good.
Yeah, the next thing I do want to move into, though, is the performance of AHQ as a whole. In this game specifically, they're arguably their most competitive game against SKT, but really this whole series, we do have to look at the efforts and the plays that they were making to give SKT a run.
Yeah, definitely. And one thing I do want to compliment them on in that game 3 is that they made a mid-series adjustment, and this is something that we didn't necessarily think AHQ would be able to do. We said that they really didn't figure out the Veigar. This time you have to say that they pretty much figured out the Tahm Kench by the end of it and were able to play around it. And I think that they had some very good individual moments, like the turret dive that went bad for Myron, and Ziv was able to get the solo kill. I guess Arn standing up against Bang in a matchup that we thought Bang would be able to exploit a little bit, showing that he's a legitimate AD carry on the world stage. I think that this is a team that still has a lot of upside, and as they get better macro players, they will be able to continue to grow as a team. Individually, they look fantastic. It's just that macro play around the map that looks a little bit
It's really like a diamond in the rough showing, that rough around the edges, but the intentions are good. They want to do the right plays, but they're just fumbling it here and there, particularly that final call to the Baron. You got 4 dragons to yourself. Relax and really bring yourself back into the game, because that's something that comes with experience. You know that you have the upper foot in this game. Don't go for that Baron.
But I also want to say that's what makes AHQ so fun to watch. Like, you never know what they're going to do, man. Sometimes it's frustrating, but if they paid off, you would have been like, what the heck is going on?
If you want to win Worlds, though, you got to put fun aside and try to go for the ultimate play, because ultimately they wanted to say, if we want the championship, we're going to have to beat SKT.
I mean, to make a case to the opposite, or to his point, I mean, Salty Timo is fun to watch, so... There's a case, the stream Salty Timo. Do you not know it?
But
anyway, I digress. I digress. If you're not aware,
I've never heard of it.
I'm thinking about like the AHQ versus Fnatic game. Like, to me, like, it was a very degraded game. In the end, it was just people running at each other trying to but what a great game of League of Legends. Like, from a spectacle point of view, to be able to just see raw mechanics on display like that. It's like, It's not perfect League of Legends, but it is very entertaining.
AHQ is out. It was a valiant effort put up by a team, who made it to the top 8. So as you mentioned, they're better showing than they had last year, and they were up against a tournament favorite. So good on them. Now I want to look at SKT moving forward. Again, this is a team that, undefeated, hasn't been forced to show too much.
I think a pattern that has come out in SKT's play a lot of times is Bengi's performance. So a lot of times he can be very good, pressure all the time, never gets caught out, but sometimes it's the opposite. He's getting caught out a lot by himself. We saw him in this series multiple times dying off on his own. He could have died a lot more times if AHQ executed on that. And that's something that going into Origin, they can highlight as a reoccurring instance, that they can really punish SKT for it. And if I'm Origin looking into this, I'm thinking, we got our weak spot, guys. We really need to put all our eggs into this. And Amazing's going to have to step up from yesterday's performance to actually do that.
Well, speaking of Bengi, right now we're going to send it over to Freak for a word with SKT's jungler.
Thank you very much, Dash. Hello, everyone. I am here with the victorious SK Telecom T1 jungler, Bengi. I've got to talk to you first about that matchup. Coming in, was there any point where you were ever concerned that you weren't going to make the semifinals here?
이번 8강전 경기를 하면서 혹시 한 번이라도 이거 4강 진출을 못할 수도 있겠다라는 생각을 한 적이 있었나요?
일단 4강 진출을 못한다는 생각은 안 했는데 경기를 질 수도 있겠다고는 생각이 들긴 했어요.
I never thought that we wouldn't make to the semifinals, but I actually was worried that we might drop a game at some point.
Well, talking about dropping a single game right now, you guys are 9-0. Maybe only 6 more wins to go. What will it take to make the perfect 15-0 run at Worlds?
현재까지 9승 0패의 기록을 가지고 있는데 이제 나머지 6경기만 더 이기면 이제 15승 0패 전승 우승을 기록할 수 있는데 그 기록을 달성하기까지 이제 어떠한 것들이 남았는지 말씀해 주세요.
어떤 것들?
그러니까 어떻게 해야 전승 우승할 수 있을 것 같은지.
일단 가장 중요한 게 4강이고 그다음 결승전인데 뭐 다 이겨야 된다고 생각하는데 준비를 어떻게 해야 될지는 잘 모르겠어요. 현재까지는 잘 준비하고 있으니까 이대로만 계속 가면 충분하지 않을까 싶어요.
So winning Worlds without dropping a game, that means you have to win like every single game from like semifinals and finals. That's like a very hard task. But I think we prepared very well up to this point, and if we just keep on maintaining this momentum and our practice, we should be fine.
Wow, so actually a pretty good chance you make the 15-0. Bengi, final question for you here. You're on track to be the second player, well, I guess first alongside Faker, but the both of you, to be a 2-time world champion. Do you think you're deserving of this title?
이제 뱅기 선수가 페이커 선수와 함께 이제 롤드컵 2회 우승을 이제 지금 노리고 있는데 뱅기 선수가 생각하시기에 본인이 그런 2회 우승을 타이틀을 가져도 될 자격이 있다고 생각하시나요?
뭐 자격은 누가 주는지는 잘 모르겠지만 저는 자격은 충분하다고 봅니다.
It's hard to say in my own words that I deserve that second time title, but yes, I think I do.
Bengi deserves the double world championship. Bengi, congratulations on the win. Thank you very much. And we're going to throw it back to Dash for some analysis on those games.
Thank you, Freak. We'll get into how they might perform later on in the tournament in just a second, but I want to talk about today's series and the fact that we have to acknowledge Wolf, who had a big day on the Rift as he unbenched the Kench and claimed our Player of the Series honors.
I was talking about it earlier where after MSI, a lot of eyes were on this guy to perform, but he has stepped up, and now on the world stage, we're seeing a different Wolf than we were seeing at MSI the last time he was playing internationally. His Tahm Kench, great champion for him. He seems to know this champion in and out, and he had some really good ultimate plays there. The one that stuck out for me was the one where they dove the bottom lane turret, because he had an understanding of this champion where when you dive, the person in your belly actually gets turret aggro first. So the Tristana took aggro, then he was devouring him afterwards to spit him back out again. So they were doing great swapping there. He's shown a lot of intricacies on that champion and stepped up.
And we've given Bang credit throughout this entire tournament. I'm going to say that this was actually one of Bang's worst performances, and he got caught out a couple of times. You saw it on the screen there. He face-checked a brush with Tristana. In lane, he got hooked. Wolf actually did an amazing job of keeping this guy safe at all points of the game, was able to shut down a lot of the momentum plays that AHQ were looking for, and that really affects the tempo of the game when you're able to do that from the support position.
And it's worrying for Origin to see a new champion come out knowing that you're probably going to have red side for large majority of the semis, and now you got to ban Cam Kench. That's another guy to put into the table. The Rise, the Fiora, like where does it end?
Yeah, if you're on red side and you're already banning more GP, it's hard to attack this SKT team.
Yeah, and a little bit before, it used to be you can target Wolf a little bit, get his Alistar out of the picture, pick your Braum, get Janna out of there as well. Doesn't seem to be the case anymore, because now he has multiple fallbacks, and with the red side problem, he's going to be able to get anything that he wants.
Well, let's pull up the playoff bracket and see how it's filling out with another day down. SK Telecom have added to their Perfect Worlds run with today's 3-0 sweep over AHQ. They'll move on to face Europe's Origin in their semifinal showdown next week. So again, we've hit on it ever so slightly just now. When we look at that, based on what we saw Origin play and their slow games versus SKT and their rather controlled, clean, slightly faster games, how do we expect that matchup to play out?
I think SKT is going to drop at least one game here. Hey, Origin has shown very slow games, but the team comps they run around them are very good into the scaling. And sure, they might not be able to hold themselves in the early game, but I think that Niels' laning phase with Mithy is just really strong right now, and it should be a big enough lead to carry them through that early game against SKT and stall the game a little bit longer. Maybe we're going to see the same thing here, but I do think that they at least have one game because of what we saw here.
I'm really worried because Myron has shown Fiora, and Niels' best champion is Kalista, and Fiora is actually really, really good against Kalista. The short dashes means that you can pressure her throughout all stages. Actually itemizes into Frozen Heart very well as a second item if you don't want to go the Black Cleaver to get the same 20% CDR. And I think that if anything, we do have a comparison here because we saw Civ play against Huni, and we've seen Soaz play against Huni a lot of times, and Myron completely demolished Civ today. And I think that that is something that Soaz is going to be looking at. Kennen, bad against Fiora. There are so many matchups. That becomes such a priority pick right now for SKT. And that guy has shown just time and time again, he will take over fights.
One thing I'm looking at is the coaches here. Koma and Hermit. The drafting that we've seen from OG has always been off the tendencies of their enemies. Right? Against Flash Wolves, they're saying, you take it late, we're just going to take it late as well. Against TSM, they did the same thing. I want to see if they're able to say, this is the weakness of SKT. We're going to target the jungle. Yeah. We're going to go in. We're going to go in early.
Maybe they know a weakness we don't.
I want to see a different type of style here from OG because they've been saying that they have versatility. Can they play early game compositions and snowball? Because we've seen the late game. Don't know if that's going to hold up, but I want to see more. I don't want to see a Nivea every game.
Yeah, in that interview that you should all check out on LollySports.com, XPK does talk about, though, the fact that they have struggled with speeding up the game, and that's why they fall back onto those longer games. So I guess the big question is whether or not they're going to be comfortable enough to go back into a fast-paced game against SKT of all teams. We'll have to see. Tomorrow, though, we'll move on to the other side of our bracket when hometown favorites Fnatic take on China's Edward Gaming in a best-of-5. The good old LPL region here for you, Spawn, making their stand against Fnatic, the hometown favorites, to say the least. Thoughts on this matchup?
It's going to be really interesting. This is, like, once again, another MSI rematch that we saw, and the difference is that it's now Reckless playing in the AD carry position, and that's going to be super fun because it's like EU deft versus actual deft, and I think Reckless is a really good AD carry at this point. He does a lot for his team, so I'm really interested to watch this bottom lane play out. I love the AD carry role because people thought it was the weaker position coming into this tournament, and we've seen so many AD carries step up and do great things. So I just want to see how that plays out.
Yeah, and you're talking about the weakest position. The perceived strongest position coming into this tournament is top lane beforehand. Huni versus Koro. Koro, well, this guy, he wasn't playing at all during the group stages. This guy was out for injury. He's the team captain. They want to improve their communication, bring him back. I know he's not as practiced with the team since their boot camp in Korea, and he hasn't been putting in the same time that Amazing Jay has. So Huni has also been having wishy-washy performances in the top lane. So this is a big volatile matchup for me here. I want to see what Koro can do on this patch, and I want to see, I know we saw him in the 5.16 previously, but I want to see what he can do on 5.18 versus Huni, who does seem to have a good adaptation there. He's got the ribbon. He's got all these carry champions. What can they do against each other, and who gets that edge?
Well, you could argue that these teams were inconsistent during the group stage. You know, they didn't have the best showing. We expected them to play at a higher level coming into the tournament, but they always play well when it counts. So I don't think that this is going to be a one-sided series whatsoever. Likely to see those 5 games go the distance. hoping Fnatic takes it too.
Well, would love to see 5 games tomorrow. We'll leave some analysis for tomorrow as well. That's going to do it for us tonight. But in just 15 minutes, Quick Shot, Crepo, and Freak will be along to recap the day's biggest moments with Worlds tonight. Now, for myself, the casters, and the entire live broadcast crew, thank you for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Drop the fish.